comes to jurisdictions, when it comes to the courts, and when it comes to the accessibility of governments to go and gather and mine this information. And I think most people will think, oh, it's never going to happen to me. I haven't done anything wrong. Well, I got news for you. I have not done anything that's illegal. And still U.S. authorities have managed to, through legal ways, to have access to my personal back-end information in relation to my Twitter account, which means that they can actually, through that accessibility to my information, know where I was and with whom I was.
Are you serious?
Yes.
How would they get the back end through Twitter? Can you explain it to us?
Well, this was a story or a development that broke out early last year.
I remember the story, but I just don't know the details of how they would ever have access to the back end stuff.
Well, the thing is that Twitter was actually originally requested to hand over all this information a year ago without my knowledge, within 3 days, without me knowing that U.S. authorities demanded to get this information. Now, what Twitter did was that they actually took it to court and unsealed secrecy in relation to this order. And thus, I could get lawyers to help me with the case. And we took it through 3 different court stages, and we lost it in every one of them. And I think it is a deep concern for us. Even if I don't want to have a special treatment as a member of parliament, but it is still very important that I, as a member of parliament, can be sure that my voters and those that contact me through digital ways can do so without having to fear that somebody is actually going to be reading and scrutinizing what they confide to me. Because we do get a lot of very sensitive material from people all the time. I get, people sending me very private information about them when they're asking me to look at, why the laws are wrong and why, it's impacting their life in a very serious way. So I think and the fact that we lost it and had to hand over this information, which just happened recently, should be of concern for everybody, since they can access my information legally like this. They can do it with anybody without anybody ever knowing.
Well, let's take Facebook, for example, which is a very curious animal now.
Yeah.
How do you view at this time Facebook and government access to Facebook and Facebook's possible involvement in government searches?
I think both Facebook and Google are extremely vulnerable systems to abuse because they collect, for example, in the case of Facebook, I know that there have been agents that create false accounts pretending to be somebody else and to gather information about people. Also, not only the sort of FBI or CIA do this, but also local police authorities and so forth. So you always have to be aware of, who you are befriending if you want to have a personal private account there. Now, like in my case, I have a completely open account and I accept anybody to be my friend unless they're like hideously racist or something like that. Then I do not accept their friendship. But I think it's a very dangerous tool, and I really that's one of the things that me and my lawyers are currently fighting for in the United States is that we do get information about the 3 other companies that were requested to hand over information to me. I don't even have information about which companies these are, and I strongly suspect that could be Facebook and Google. Because, in reality, the information they got out of Twitter is not very much compared to what they could get out of Google. And because, through Google, you not only have all your searches and your behavior online is attached to your profile, but also very many people have their emails there and so forth. So I think people have to be aware of this, that this could... If somebody wants to build a case on you, even if you haven't done anything, except being, with resistance to authority if the authority is or corporations are breaking the law on you. If you're an activist and so forth for peace or anti-war or anti-corporations, like there's a big fight in the States now against Monsanto.
Yes.
Because that's a very, very important fight. But these corporations have huge interests and they have massive influence on politicians and policymakers. So I think anybody that wants to raise their voice about anything has to be concerned. And that's why we have to make sure on both, country by country base, but also on a global base, that we as citizens have the same citizens' rights online with our content as offline. And I urge people to, when they use any form of communications online, be it through email, Facebook, Skype, Google, anything, just make sure that you will never post anything you don't want on a postcard. That's how serious this is. And most people are not aware of this.
I did a piece with the owners of Startpage last year, which is an anonymous search engine. They were under attack in Europe for what they're doing. They don't collect cookies. They don't collect sources or anything. It's a window into other search engines, but it's anonymous search. And I highly recommend it to people because that's what it's there for. It's not about hiding. It's about saying it's none of your business. What you're searching is your business. It's called Startpage.
Exactly. Startpage. Yeah.
Yes.
I have a look at it. Because, let's say you're a journalist and you're doing a research and a piece, investigative journalism on, terrorists or pedophiles or whatever. That's all attached to you as a person. And let's say you're writing something about a corporation that has big influence on policymakers and so forth, and you're revealing how they really are. This stuff that's attached to your profile can very easily be used against you. And I think people have to understand that this can be used against anybody, even if you just go doing nothing that's like anybody's business except your work or your recreation or whatever. That's all your activities online. Even, they can even go into your computer and log everything you write on your keyboard. It's so easy. And I'm reading a very interesting book called Gideon's Spies. It's about Mossad. And what Mossad did years and years ago is that they helped create, through a sort of a bogus company, a system for all the security services, all the spy services around the world that was about tracking people and their activities. What the Mossad did was that they created a backdoor into, so they knew about all secret services activities that had this software called Promise. So, everything is possible if you don't have any ethical standards on honoring people's privacy, which usually governments don't do. And in particular, the more oppressive the governments become, the less they care about people's right for privacy. And that is a deep concern. Watching what is going on in the United States, I often compare the United States to China when it comes to these issues. I really wish that there is a way to turn this track around, because for many of us all over the world, the United States used to be an incredible source of information when it came to freedom of expression, speech. Not so much information, but in particularly freedom of expression and speech. And that has all been jeopardized, and it all started with the Patriot Act, and it's just been going downhill ever since.
One of the phenomenons that I've noticed when you start to talk about privacy with people is that because people are kind of locked into their day-to-day life, they're hooked up psychologically and otherwise into Twitter, into Facebook, into Google. So it's now kind of integrated in people's day-to-day life. And with that has come blind trust, complacency, no vigilance.